Take a moment to consider your own timeline. Over an average human lifetime, you will spend roughly 1/3 of your years entirely unconscious. If you live to be nearly a century old, that equates to over 33 years spent in a state of total disconnect from the world around you. To an outside observer, it looks like a staggering waste of a finite resource, a biological tax that claims a massive portion of our existence. But what if you could take those years back? What if you could stop sleeping tomorrow with absolutely no side effects? Instantly, you'd gain those 33 years of conscious life. You would have over 3 decades of extra time to work, to create, to travel, or to simply live. It sounds like the ultimate human upgrade, the final victory over our evolutionary limits. Yet, across millions of years, not a single complex species has ever successfully opted out of rest. From the smallest fruit fly to the massive blue whale, nature remains obsessed with this period of vulnerability. Evolution has had eons to delete sleep, to make us more productive and more capable. Instead, it has doubled down on its necessity. Because, as it turns out, we don't sleep simply because we are tired. We sleep because the act of being awake is literally toxic. At first glance, sleep looks like a major design flaw. While we are unconscious, we can't find food, we can't reproduce, and we certainly can't defend ourselves from danger. In the harsh logic of the natural world, survival depends on being alert. Therefore, sleep should have been the first thing evolution discarded as we progressed. But it didn't. Every creature with a nervous system studied to date requires some form of downtime. There is a minimum buy-in for consciousness, and the currency we pay is time. For years, scientists searched for a core function of sleep, one single dominant reason why we do it. But the more we investigate, the more we realize that sleep isn't doing just one thing. It is doing everything. It is the fundamental cost of having a brain that can learn, adapt, and process information. The fantasy of gaining 33 extra years is tempting, but without the mandatory maintenance of sleep, those years wouldn't be spent at peak performance. They would be spent in a slow, agonizing slide toward terminal cognitive collapse. To understand why we can't simply claim that extra time, we have to look at the chemical receipt every single thought leaves behind in the brain. From the very moment you wake up in the morning, a biological, chemical hourglass is flipped. Inside your brain, a molecule called adenosine begins to accumulate. Think of it as a metabolic receipt for every thought you think and every movement you make. This process is known as Process S, the homeostatic drive for sleep. The longer you stay awake, the higher the adenosine pressure climbs. Every hour of wakefulness adds more sand to the hourglass. It's a physical weight, a growing demand from your neurons that eventually becomes impossible to ignore. This is why you feel that heavy, inescapable fog at the end of a long day. Acting in parallel with this chemical buildup is Process C, your circadian rhythm. Controlled by a tiny cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, this is your internal master clock. It is synced to the light of the sun, telling your body when to release melatonin and when to prepare for the night shift. When these two forces are pushed out of sync, like when you pull an all-nighter, the results are devastating. By the time you've been awake for 17 hours, your cognitive performance doesn't just dip, it plummets. At the 17-hour mark, your brain's movement and reaction times are equivalent to someone with a 0.05% blood alcohol content. Your sharp, focused thoughts have essentially become intellectual sludge. We feel this pressure as tiredness, but that name is misleading. We aren't just low on energy, our brains are physically clogged. For decades, scientists were baffled by how the brain maintained itself. Every other organ in the human body has a lymphatic system, a series of vessels that carries away metabolic waste. But the brain appeared to have no such plumbing. It seemed to be the only high-performance engine in the world with no exhaust pipe. Then, in 2013, a breakthrough discovery changed our entire understanding of neural health. Researchers identified the glymphatic system. During the day, your brain cells are packed tightly together, firing rapidly to manage your life. There's no room for a cleaning crew to get through while the traffic is so heavy. But when you enter the deepest stage of sleep, NREM stage 3, something extraordinary happens. Your brain cells physically contract. As they shrink, they open up vast channels between them, allowing the interstitial space, the cleaning space, to expand by a staggering 60%. Suddenly, the gates open, and cerebrospinal fluid rushes through the brain in a high-pressure pulse. This is the nightly flush. This fluid washes away toxic proteins, including amyloid-beta, a waste product linked to Alzheimer's disease. It is a physical scrubbing of your neural architecture. Without this deep cleaning cycle, the very thoughts we think would eventually poison the neural pathways that created them. But as the hardware is being scrubbed clean, a second, equally complex operation is starting on the software of your mind. While your brain is being physically washed, it is also busy sorting through the terabytes of data you collected during the day. This is the realm of sleep architecture, the 90-minute cycles that move you between NREM and REM sleep. Think of your hippocampus as a temporary inbox, a messy desk where all your new experiences, facts, and memories are piled up throughout the day. This area has a very limited capacity. If you don't clear the desk, you eventually run out of room to learn anything new the following day. During NREM sleep, the brain begins a massive data transfer. It moves those memories from the fragile, temporary hippocampus to the hard drive of the neocortex, where they are protected and etched into long-term storage. Then comes REM, rapid eye movement sleep. Here, the brain's activity doesn't drop, it surges. In fact, parts of the brain become 30% more active during REM than when you're wide awake. This is the master archivist at work. During REM, the brain isn't just saving files, it's connecting them. It is cross-referencing today's lessons with a lifetime of experience, solving complex problems, and recalibrating your emotional compass. This is why we dream. It's the sound of the mind's software being updated and optimized for the next day. It is a perfect, dual-layered system of maintenance. But what happens when we decide we're too busy to let it run? We live in a culture that often views sleep as an optional luxury, a sign of weakness or a lack of ambition. But the biological reality is unforgiving. When we deny the brain its night shift, we aren't just tired, we are entering a state of total system failure. In a famous 1964 experiment, 17-year-old Randy Gardner attempted to see how long he could go without rest. He stayed awake for 11 days. By the fourth day, he began experiencing hallucinations and severe memory loss. By the end of the experiment, his speech was slurred, and his personality had fractured under the strain. Without the glymphatic flush, metabolic trash builds up until the brain becomes a physically hostile environment. The immune system begins to malfunction. The amygdala, the brain's emotional center, becomes hyper-reactive, while the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and decision-making, begins to go offline. When you lose sleep, you aren't just losing time. You are losing the very version of yourself that is capable of using that time effectively. You are attempting to operate a biological supercomputer while its circuits are literally drowning in its own exhaust. The extra life we seek through staying awake is a phantom. The only way to truly live is to surrender to the dark. We started with a question. Why do we waste 1/3 of our lives? The answer is that those decades of perceived nothingness are actually the most sophisticated biological operations we ever perform. Sleep is not a pause button. It is a high-pressure plumbing operation, a master-level data migration, and an emotional recalibration, all happening simultaneously. We don't sleep because we are tired. We sleep because we are complex. Our brains are capable of incredible things: art, science, love, and logic. But those capabilities come with a physical price. Every neural connection requires maintenance, and every memory requires a home. The next time you feel the weight of adenosine pulling at your eyelids, don't think of it as a weakness or a limitation. Think of it as your brain's signal that the cleaning crew is ready, the archivists are waiting, and the most important work of your day is just about to begin. The extra 33 years aren't found by staying awake. They are earned by the quality of the time we spend in the dark. We are only as brilliant as our last nightly flush. In the end, the secret to a long and capable life isn't about avoiding the night, it's about respecting it.